What's going on, guys? We're back at Red Rocket. This time we're going to be finishing off the settlement. So the first thing we're going to do is close off some of the doors. And to do this we are using the door boards and a few little fences to block off the main portion of the door. But that's not good enough for this series. So we're going to throw in some extra objects like tile walls, bricks, woods, and even a couch to properly barricade the doorway. And if you're wondering how I got the couch to do that, I just used the Place Everywhere mod to rotate the couch. And I then forgot to actually record me doing it, but oh well, you can kind of see what's going on there. So I continued to barricade the doorways, and once I was completely finished and I was okay with it, I moved on to fencing up the main windows. Outside was looking a little bit too clean and clear, so I busied it up a little bit by adding a load of tires and some sandbags. Making sure I dropped in a few single sandbags to make it more realistic and natural looking. The window area was still looking kind of boring and it didn't have enough going on, so I dropped in some fences and boards again just to mess it up and make it look more natural and actually work in this world. Moving into the building itself, I started by cleaning the place up, and as this settlement is kind of messy, I wanted to keep all the scrap and reuse it and put it in a more appropriate places rather than just deleting it. Moving on, I added a doorway as I wanted to separate the back portion and use it for a storeroom. Before I started chucking loads of crap into the storeroom, I first wanted to clean it up a little bit and make it more appropriate for the storeroom I wanted. I didn't want to go too far away from the original station. I wanted to keep a lot of the original furniture, as realistically that's what would happen. They would just move in and kind of build on what's already there. So I added a door to the storeroom and began placing the shelving. Once I was happy with the layout, I began adding shelving clutter from the mod Do It Yourself. And if you're like me and you haven't got that much time on your hands, this can really be a time saver. To mix it up a little bit and not make it look so copy and pasted, I added a few containers like the ammo bags, the duffel bags, and a few little toolboxes. Backing out of the storeroom, I began working on the main bar area. I wanted to extend the counter first of all, as I found it was a little bit short. I still wanted to keep to the original design, so I used the same diner counters, which I believe are from the mod Snap and Build, but I could be wrong. But remember guys, all the mods I use are down in the description, so you just go down, click on a link for the individual mods, and it will take you to the mod page, and you can just read about them on there. Getting back to building, I sunk in some hand railings into the floor. I don't know if you have this in America, but in the UK, in bars, we have these weird bars behind the bar. But yeah, I'm not too sure what they're for. But all I remember, when you're a kid, you kind of just used to stand on them so you could actually reach the bar. But I'm pretty sure that's not their use. But that's the design I was going for. After all that cleaning earlier, the place was looking way too clean, so we needed to mess it up and just add more to it. So I began placing signs and stuff like a cola machine, and I added a cool little out of order sign just to add to it. Once I calmed down on placing the signs, I began adding boards to the bar area just to make it look kind of crappy and run down and all kind of thrown together, and then this clean nice bar area. The bar was still way too nice looking for this settlement, so I began chucking boards on top of it as well, just to add to that kind of messy, cluttery, thrown together look. The boards were overlapping the bar, so it kind of was unstable, especially when drinks are going to be put on top of it, which are probably going to cause these settlers to kill each other, so I just stabilized it by adding support beams underneath. Next, I threw in some stools, making sure I added some mess underneath them, as they are a messy bunch. The one back wall was looking too clean and bare, so I just threw a board on it. I also threw a board over the light, as I just found it looked too good for this settlement. Speaking about lighting, I chucked a lantern in the storeroom and then plastered the floor with random boards. I needed a place for these settlers to cook food, and I didn't want to just chuck a cooker in it because it wouldn't really make sense of how they work in it. So instead I just made my own cooking station by placing down a table from the greenhouses and placing a campfire underneath it. To pull it all together and add more protection from the fire, I just placed some sheet metal around the table. Then I just shrunk down a salvaging station that I just placed by the side. Then to finish off the cooking area, I chucked in a few minor details like a bell, a coffee mug and a noodle pot. This little corner was looking a little bare, so I just simply chucked in a volt cryo pipe to kind of mess it up a little bit, and it kind of works. There was a random gap next to the cooking station, so I just added one of the crappy sinks just to fill it in. Then continuing with the bar area, I added a nice couch and a little chair for seating area. I put a stool in between them that I actually used for a table and placed a lamp on, and then I just began to place clutter throughout the place. There wasn't much going on underneath the table areas, so I needed to add something there. So I grabbed some crafting tables that I shrunk into the floor to add more clutter. I also used a salvaging station underneath the other table just to pull it all together. Then, using the same technique I've used many times before, I chucked some boards down on the floor just to add more detail to the area before adding a chain full of cans above the sink so people can drink. This is actually just a trap, but I find it looks really good in these areas as it kind of looks like you can just grab a can, fill it with water, there you go, you serve somebody a can of water. Moving on, we go outside to the buses that are actually a part of the wall. These were gonna be the sleeping quarters for the settlers, so I began by adding a load of beds and mattresses and even some chairs inside these buses. Then to finish it off, I added a container or two and some candles and then threw down some rugs, and in some cases I put down some wooden boards as well. Then I did the same thing for the other bus, making sure I kind of mixed up the layout a little bit, added a few little different things, but all in all I kept to the same design. There was a random gap outside the one of the buses and I just had to put a couch there, and I have to say, come on, it looks pretty good. Moving on, I headed up to the other bus. This was in the top corner of the settlement and was gonna be the armory. So I began by placing some army related containers in the front of the bus, before moving on and adding some tables, some desks and some filing cabinets and even a shelf, before adding a load of clutter. Then to finish it off, I dropped in some rugs, a radio, some boards, a lamp and even some candles. The settlement still needed a source of water, so I placed down a large water purifier, but it wasn't enough. So I then chucked down another two just to kind of pull it all together and make it kind of more messy and more going on. Then to power them, I just chucked down a power pylon and a generator in the open space I had left. Once I was happy with the layout, I then chucked down some boards, a roof and even a gravel wall to mess up the area. The purifier still looked a little bit weird just going into concrete, so for the one I just covered it in sandbag walls and the other I chucked down some tires. For the one purifier I added a bathtub that I sunk into the dirt, which I added some crops to so the settlement had some food. Then for the other purifier I came up with this cool idea by adding a water cooler with a smashed top underneath it so the water drips into the actual water cooler and you can just use the smaller tap to fill up your bottles or your cans. I didn't do anything with the other purifier, I just added some bottles underneath it. Then jumping across to the other side of the settlement, I wanted this area to be like a chill out zone, so I added some chairs, a picnic table and even a couch to kind of just fill up the area. This section of the settlement was still looking a little bit plain and boring and not much going on, so I just simply dropped in a few more cars, which kind of goes along with the settlement, but it also adds more detail and makes it look a little bit more busy. While I was adding more clutter to the settlement, I came across this little cooking station that I just had to have for my cooking area. Moving on, I added a cooking area over by where the sleeping quarters are, and then I added some fire barrels just for light and warmth. I saw this hole would join as well, so I just chucked in some tile walls and sandbags just to cover it up. Jumping back over to the chill out zone, I added some fire barrels, adding a little cooking station on one of them, and then adding another cooking station next to the other. Moving back inside the building, I began to work on the garage area, which I'm just gonna stick my hands up here guys, I messed up and forgot to record what I began to do. But to give you a quick rundown, it's just simply crafting benches and stations just merged into each other. It's pretty simple and easy to do, but if anybody has a problem and actually wants me to do a quick little video of me just chucking it together, I can do that when I have some time. But moving on, I began to add the little things that bring a settlement to life. Like a random curtain, some pallets, a little box, a barrel, just the little things that you kind of overlook sometimes, but these really pull everything together and make it look more natural and realistic. Then to bring everything together, I just chucked down some more boards, chucked them on the walls, and even put a little fence behind the one crafting station just to bring it all together and finish off this little area. Then I moved back outside, filling in the empty spaces by just simply dropping in some vehicles. Then to finish off this settlement and actually fix something I completely forgot about, which was the other gateway in the bottom corner, I moved over to it and just deleted the roof and the garage doors because I weren't too feeling them, and instead I replaced it with the junk gates, which I found just fitted more with the rest of the settlement. Then I simply just dropped in 2 junk fences either side just so it fitted and merged into the area. Then to finish off, I added a sandbag wall and 2 spiked poles either side of the gate. And that's it guys, we are done with the settlement, and I gotta say I really enjoyed working on a settlement, and I hoped you enjoyed watching it and kinda experiencing it with me. Originally for the next settlement we were gonna hit up Sanctuary, but I still don't have a clear idea of what I'm gonna do there, so instead I'm gonna hit up quickly a smaller settlement like the boathouse that we can kinda just throw together and have some fun to kinda hopefully give us more of a creative kinda idea of what we're gonna be doing at Sanctuary. So if you've got any ideas for Sanctuary, please chuck in the comments below and let me know. And remember guys, I use Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to upload random kind of screenshots of what I'm working on, so if you kind of want to kind of jump ahead and get a sneak peek of what I'm doing, go over and check them out. Links will be in the description below, and if you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, goodbye.